Hi everyone, it's me, KP, and I'm here at the Moon and the Maker, home of RubberMoon. I'm here today to share with you my new inspiration wire and beads rubber stamp collection. This is something I'm really excited about because I have been carrying this idea around in my head for like over a year. Sometimes it takes that long to go from my brain waves to the drawing board. And so uh, it's been a long time in the making, but I'm very excited. So thanks for joining me, and I hope that you have some wire and bead stamps to play with too. We're going to do 3 projects today. We're going to do some greeting cards, okay? And we're going to do a watercolor painting on a cradled board. And we're also going to do a fun journal page, all using the wire and bead stamps. So this collection has 51 images. Many of them are very tiny. So if you order them as a full set, you can get them all, individual on cling like this, or most all of these little bead sets also can come on a wood mount on a wooden cube. So they're little cube stamps. And then also there is the wire work set, which only comes on cling. So whatever, you can either mix and match or you can get the whole collection, but either way it's lots of fun, and I'm so excited for you to join me and then just take off doing your own creations. That's what this is all about. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and get started. We're going to start with our greeting card projects. And so for that, you're going to want a few things, not very many supplies, but you're going to want some cardstock and or watercolor paper. And this is my favorite. I love the Strathmore mixed media paper, and I just will get usually like larger sheets and cut them into sizes that, whatever size I want. So you're going to want cardstock. You're going to want something to mount your cards on. So you may want some different colors or some pretty fun scrapbook papers, whatever you like or whatever you have. You're going to want an ink pad. And I used my black Moonlight Duo Tint and Hue ink pad. Some colored pencils. You're going to want some adhesive to mount all your layers together. This is what I used, but obviously, you have stuff in your studio, so just some adhesive. You're going to want a set of alphabet stamps, and of course it depends on what size lettering or what size words that you want to create. You could also do your own lettering, or you could cut things out of magazines and use collage. I just used an old set that I have. It is not RubberMoon. I don't know where it actually came from. It is an unmarked set, but I love it, and I felt like it went really well with the design. So anyway, and that's it. That's all you need. So basically 7 items. I'll just say them again. You're going to want your cardstock or watercolor paper, your wire and bead rubber stamps, an ink pad that is waterproof because we are going to be, well, for this one, I guess it really won't matter. We're going to be using colored pencils, but for the next project, you're going to want something that's waterproof. You're going to want your colored pencils, adhesive. I don't know if I said this already or not, but some transparent gray paint, and that is optional. That's just for a little sort of touch at the very end that I really think helps everything kind of pull together. So it doesn't have to be watercolor paint. This is Ardois Gray from Golden Core Watercolor, or you could use a little bit of this shading gray acrylic high flow if you have it. So either one of these will work. And again, that's optional. So we'll go ahead and get started. I had already cut some of my mixed media paper. So whatever size card that you want to make. If you want to make a tiny little enclosure card, that's great. If you want to make a big 5x7, or this one happens to be like a 4x4 square. So just variety, whatever you like. So here you can see I already did my edging, and I want to just show you how I did this. This is really fun because it gives you a lot of different options. I could either take the same stamp and just repeat it over and over, and it would still make a really fun border. Here, let's just choose one of these. I'll just show you kind of what I mean. You're going to hang off the edge and you're just going to go different ways all around. You can sort of overlap. I would turn it various ways just so you're getting a different portion of the stamp each time. And it is helpful if you do move your paper around a little bit as you go, just so you don't get a lot of inky fingers. Okay, so really quickly, that's how fast you can make your border. Of course, if you wanted to do it with the different stamps and really mix it up a little bit, then you're just going to switch around. So I would take my first one and just maybe, you know, do it 3 or 4 or 5 times. Just be kind of random. Give a little variety. And of course, whatever size mount, you could also put your stamps on different mounts and get them all ready. It's really fun to just mix up all the different shapes and sizes. And again, turning them quite often as I go. And just letting them hang off the edge in different spots. Doubling them up in some other spots. All right, so you get the idea on that. I'm going to just stop because you don't need to watch me stamp for 2 hours. We already have these done up. And now you could take your Wireworks stamps and kind of decide, you know, how, like, if you look at the examples that I did, I just used my little scallopy wavy line here, but of course you can mix it up. You could use you know, your whatever squiggles, you could use your U-shaped, any, whatever you like. You could also, if you don't have the Wireworks stamps, feel free to just use a marker, something like, you know, a bullet tip permanent black marker, and make yourself sort of a fun squiggly line going across, and then you could hang your words or more beads down from them. I went ahead and I just used this little guy. And if you don't want it going into the edge, you can always just, if you don't want your black line to overlap any of your beads, which I don't think would be, you know, the end of the world, but you can mask it off just a little bit just to keep it from going there. But it doesn't really matter that much, because once you start coloring, you can cover up any imperfections. Okay. Right, so and you can see right there, it didn't quite line up perfectly, and that's okay. You can take your marker and make that happen. But once you stamp your lettering, you should be just fine. You can also, of course, take and finish these lines off. Let's try one. You know, I was going to say hello, but let's try something a little bit, well, nah, let's make it fast. Look at me, always trying to make it more complicated than it has to be. We'll just do one that says hi. Might be fun for this one to do a little something different and stamp a few more beads going across on there. And of course you could go in and do a little embellishing with just your pen, just to add a little more pizzazz, whatever. Remember, you're going to be coloring these in with pencils. So let's see here. We'll grab our colored pencils and just begin to color in, and you can always, of course, take these and stamp them up and get them ready, and then do all your coloring at once. Turn this over. Sorry, I just want to cover up all that ink so that it doesn't get all over my hands and my card like it normally does. Anyway, any little areas that, you know, because I didn't do any masking, so any little areas that are showing through, maybe where you don't want them to, it's completely fine, because really your colored pencils will mostly cover that up. And even if it doesn't 100% cover, it really does not show once you're all done. And the other thing, you can always use a little bit of white gesso or white Sharpie paint marker if you want to. And I actually do use my paint marker a lot after I'm done coloring, just to add some little fun highlights. But you can kind of use it as a whiteout. So of course I'm just going to work kind of quickly here, not trying to color in, you know, and be too fancy. I'm just going to work quick, because this you can definitely do just by taking a little bit of time and sitting, maybe, you know, in the evening, if you like to color while you watch TV or something like that, you could get these all stamped up and then go and sit and just color, you know, and take your time. But one thing I do recommend is to give your beads a little bit of shading, a little bit of sort of make them more visually interesting by really layering on the colors. So like here I used a yellow as my base color, and then I used sort of this red, this carmine red, to sort of fill in, and it colors very nicely right over the yellow and sort of does a little bit of color mixing. But then I'm even going to take a deeper shade of orange and sort of blend. And if I color a little bit deeper around the outsides of, around the edges of each individual little bead, it will really begin to give it, you know, a little more depth. So you can see just the difference in this one I just colored, and then these that I sort of gave that little bit of edging to. So just continue coloring and having fun. And you know, you can make it monochromatic and do all, like it would be really fun if you did all in shades of like blues, you know, or make it real fun and bright and do rainbow jewel tones, or even do it in black and white the way I did the I love you card. I mean, I think this would be really, I think this would be really cute with just a couple pops of red. So whatever, that part is your complete artistic sort of, you know, your own artistic choices as we kind of go along. And then after you get things colored in, like I said, you can always go back in with a white Sharpie marker. Now I didn't list this as one of the items that you would need. Again, that would just be optional, but you can always take a white paint marker and then just go in and give a little bit of fun highlights and extra little pops of white will sort of, I don't know, gives it a little bit of a sparkle. So continue that. Then you're going to want to go ahead and choose what kind of color that you want to mount it on. And so that's why I like to have all sorts of different colors of cardstock sort of at my fingertips. Just then I can decide, you know, what color it would look best on. And I usually am gravitating towards, you know, the darker colors, but again, it would depend on, you know, on what kind of card I'm making for what occasion. These would be really cute Valentine's cards too, by the way, since Valentine's Day is coming up. Anyway, I do like it on that red, so maybe I'll finish it and pop that on the red. All right, so we'll finish coloring. Just remember as you're coloring to sort of lay down a color with a little bit of lighter color, and then you can sort of deepen up. We're kind of far away here, so you can kind of deepen up just a few of the little lines, leaving some of that lighter color kind of just peeking through. It will just give your work a whole nother sort of, oh, I don't really know how to say it, a little bit of dimension. Also, lots of times, just because these already have a lot of little polka dots and stripes and things on them, a lot of times I like to still add in more. So what I mean by that is, like, you can see here this little line. Like, a lot of times I will even take my paints or my pencils or markers or whatever I'm using and actually add in more stripes or polka dots or lines. It just, I mean, if you look at some real beads or go to a bead store, or if you look online at beads, I mean, there's just such an amazing variety of stuff. Like, they all have so many different textures and colors and patterns that you really can't go wrong. So you can leave them as plain and basic as you want, or really spruce them up with lots more little textures and patterns inside of them. All right, so I think I got it all done colored wise, and now I just want to take my little bit of shading gray or a little bit of this Ardoise gray, very, very subtle. Like I said, it's just to give it a little bit of depth. And if you didn't do this part, I mean, it's not going to make or break it, but I really just think it helps to add a little bit of visual interest and gives those beads just a little bit more weight. So you can see it's very thin and translucent, and I'm just going to sort of run my brush right around each bead. And I'm not being very careful, I'm just being real quick and getting up and around each one. Okay, and then I can also sort of run it underneath the wire. And a little bit around the letters. Can you see that at all? I don't know if you can sort of, it's like I said, it's very subtle and really light on camera. So I'm hoping that you can even see why I would do that. And then I want to mount this right on here. I'm going to let that dry, of course. And I want to mount it on the red. And of course, if I wanted to do it this way, well, no, that's a little bit too wide. I didn't measure first, so this will have to be good. So we're going to mount it right on there. Okay, and then I'm going to trim that and I'll mount it right on my folded greeting card. So I don't have my paper cutter here, so I'll do that later, and then I'll definitely share the picture with you at the end. So wonderful, fun greeting cards. I hope that you get to make some. So here's our card all put together. I trimmed off my matte, my red piece of matte paper, and then I mounted it onto a nice watercolor greeting card. So there you have project 1 for our wire and beads. I hope you have fun, and I can't wait to see what you create.